Have you ever looked around and just felt like something shifted, almost overnight? That's the feeling at the heart of this really wild and honestly pretty provocative theory we're going to break down today.
I mean, it's this strange sense of déjà vu, right? You see one young guy, and you feel like you've seen 100 others who look and act just like him. And it feels different from just a normal trend. So today, we're diving into a hypothesis that asks a pretty huge question. Is there something more going on here than just fashion or what's popular on social media?
You know, this quote just nails the feeling perfectly. It wasn't a slow burn, like how skinny jeans gradually replaced baggy ones. This felt like a switch was flipped, and a whole new template for a young man just appeared. So, what exactly does this template even look like?
Okay, so let's get into the specifics of this whole phenomenon, because it's not just about a haircut or one style of clothing. We're talking about a whole package of traits, physical and behavioral.
The detail here is what makes this so weird. It's not one thing. It's the overgrown curly hair, sure, but it's also the softer facial features, a specific kind of posture, and even these shared behaviors, like this odd combination of being super loud and confident, but also kind of fragile underneath. It's the fact that it's all of these things together, this total convergence, that makes you wonder if it's more than just a trend.
So, look, the most obvious answer here is the internet, right? That's where everyone's mind goes first, and for good reason. We all know how powerful algorithms are. But the theory we're digging into argues that, well, maybe that isn't the whole story.
And that's the big pushback, isn't it? If TikTok can make a silly dance go viral across the entire planet in 24 hours, why couldn't it make a certain look go viral too? And yeah, it absolutely can. But the real question this theory is asking is, does that explanation go deep enough?
And right here, this is the heart of the argument. A TikTok trend can get millions of people to buy the exact same jacket or use the same new slang word. No question. But can an algorithm actually influence someone's physical development, their bone structure, their body type? The people behind this theory are saying probably not. And that's what leads them to this much, much more radical idea.
Okay, this is where things get really wild. The hypothesis basically says, what if the answer isn't just cultural? What if it's biological? What if it comes from a totally unique event that happened to hit one very specific group of people at a very sensitive time in their lives? So when you look at this timeline, you can see what looks like a perfect storm. You've got this slice of Gen Z going through puberty, one of the most transformative biological processes there is, and then, smack in the middle of it, a brand new virus sweeps the entire globe. This theory is built entirely on that one critical and maybe, just maybe, consequential overlap. Now, what's really interesting here is how detailed the theory gets. It isn't saying that getting super sick with COVID caused this. In fact, it's proposing the total opposite. The idea is that in asymptomatic cases, where your body didn't mount this massive immune response, the virus could have interacted with the body's development in a much more subtle way, maybe even tweaking how genes are expressed at that super crucial time.
And that brings us to this key concept, convergent outcomes. Think about it. If millions and millions of people are exposed to the exact same subtle biological nudge during the exact same sensitive phase of development, could it push them all just a tiny bit in the same direction? And could the result be a generation that's way more similar physically and behaviorally than we'd ever expect to see naturally?
So, okay, this is a pretty wild idea. I get it. But what makes it more than just some late-night thought experiment is that there's actually a clear scientific path to figure out if it's true. So let's walk through how you would actually test this.
All right, so first things first, you'd have to create some really specific groups. The most important one is Group A, all the people who are infected right in that critical puberty window. Then you'd compare them to people who got infected before or after puberty, and of course you'd need a control group of people who never got infected at all. That's the only way to isolate the key variable here, which is timing. And then you measure, well, everything. You'd use 3D facial scans to look for those tiny structural similarities nobody can see with the naked eye. You'd look at their epigenetics to see if their gene expression was changed. You'd check hormones, do personality tests, and, this is super important, you'd track their social media use.
Because this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Once you account for the fact that two people both watch the exact same 10,000 TikToks, are they still more similar than they should be? If the answer to that is yes, well, then you might actually have found something biological.
So if you actually did this massive study, what could you find? Well, the way it's designed, there are really 4 distinct possibilities. And it's important we look at all of them. from the theory being completely busted to something way more complicated.
And this table lays it all out pretty clearly. First, the study could find absolutely nothing, no effect, and the theory is just plain wrong. Or it could find that it's all environmental. It really is just TikTok. The third outcome is the bombshell, finding a direct epigenetic link to the infection. Or, and this might be the most plausible, a mixed model, where a tiny biological nudge got massively amplified by everyone sharing the same digital space at the same time.
This is the question that's been hanging over this whole thing, right? We've looked at the observation, we've walked through the theory, and we've even seen how you could test it. But what's the answer? Is this real?
And the simple answer is, we don't know. Right now, this is purely a hypothesis, a really fascinating, well-structured idea that tries to explain a very strange, very sudden observation. But it has not been scientifically tested, it has not been proven. It's just a what-if.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with this central mystery. Whether the cause ends up being biological or purely cultural or some complex mix of the two that we don't even understand yet, the question itself is just so powerful. It makes you look at the world a little differently and ask what forces, seen and unseen, are shaping the generations to come.